Speaking of running the place, Paul Heyman has been removed from WWE Creative yet again in his up and down career when it comes to booking and being in creative for WWE. Bruce Pritchard now looks to be taking over both Raw and SmackDown. What does this mean for the guys Heyman was pushing comes to mind? What does this mean for the brand split, the presentation of both respective brands? Because I do like having different people running each show because, you have two different powerful minds sort of on how they want to present things. That being said, I'm a big Bruce Pritchard guy. I have faith in him. I am disappointed, though, because I am an equally big Paul Heyman guy and believe in his vision and what he has been able to do, and certainly what he was able to do in the past, with ECW and on SmackDown and everything like that. So I was taken aback by this news, just as I was taken aback by Eric Bischoff's short tenure. What is your feeling with what's going on with WWE Creative?
I should probably say this, but usually when breaking news like this happen, I go to Twitter and see people's reaction and their comment. And listen, as much as you and I are part of the wrestling community, we know their fans, the wrestling fans, can be very toxic. So the comments were all over the place. There were people who were very upset, people who were for this, people who were in the middle. And so I kind of used that as a gauge to maybe to read the room and see what happened. And yeah, deep down, I am bummed. I don't want to see Paul Heyman leave. So apparently what I've been reading and gathering was he had two contracts. One as an in-ring performer, which is funny because he's not an actual wrestler. He's a manager.
On-screen performer, perhaps, would be a better term.
Exactly. And then the other one was as employee/manager, which he was creative director of Raw. And as you said, I'm bummed because, yeah, you want two distinct brands. Therefore, two distinct people should oversee each show. That way, each show just feels like has their more own unique appearance. Each one, it's like a different. You're getting two different shows. And the quote there, the press release that WWE put out, they're like, we're trying to streamline everything and just have one person oversee both shows. And I'm like, ugh. And it's kind of a bummer because then, yeah, it's just one set of eyes overseeing both shows. So how much are the shows going to maybe start looking similar to one another and not have a different feel or flavor for each one? That's definitely going to be tough. And yeah, Paul Heyman, I think for all of us, especially you and I, our age, people around our age, we grew up loving Paul Heyman, for his work, back in the day as a manager in WCW, but then obviously what he did with ECW and the legacy that brand has. So I think forever Paul Heyman's going to be on a high plateau for us or a platform. We're going to hold him in such high regards because we love his body of work.
Yeah, I think Paul in general, just for some reason his personality has always sort of been like oil and water with the McMahons at various times. I think they respect his vision and just his creativity, but his personality, I think, and his sort of how he manages those things just goes against their grain, and which is why they've had this sort of up and down kind of relationship with him, going back to his original creative run where he found himself suspended after altercations in the writer's room and all this stuff. Paul Heyman is an incredibly, incredibly creative and passionate guy. And so I just think that sometimes, he gets a little unbridled. And this is not to blame Paul because I certainly, when he left the wrestling industry for a long time, I was chomping at the bit for him to return in any capacity because I think Paul Heyman's mind for pro wrestling is pretty unmatched, with very few names, like Vince's and Bruce's that could even, approach and be in that same stratosphere. So I hope that whatever this is, they find a way to work them back into those discussions because Paul Heyman, like Dusty Rhodes, is great at looking at somebody and not seeing their shortcomings, but seeing what could really make them stand out and be stars and minimizing those shortcomings while maximizing their strengths. And that is something that I think is maybe more needed now than ever in wrestling. So we'll see how this all shakes out on Raw and SmackDown and the creative. I mean, certainly a lot of people speculating it could mean the end of the brand split. And, I don't know how I even feel about that now because with this whole, people get out of jail free cards to go appear on whatever show they want. How strong is the brand split anyway at this point?
Yeah, no, that's very much true. But I think the latest rumors I heard was Fox is happy with what they have right now. I think it's USA Network. that's a little more desperate or wanting other talents from SmackDown to appear because they're the ones suffering the bigger ratings loss right now. So how truthful that's going to be, I think, like for example, the women's tag titles, since whoever has them can appear on any show, I think they're going to probably use that to their advantage as far as trying to get some star power. Like for example, Bayley and Sasha, who were on Raw this week and last week. So, last week. So it's, I think they're gonna try to, instead of like quote using one of their appearance clauses or what's the free agent or
the invitational whatever
wild card, whatever term they're using now. Instead, they get through a loophole. Oh, if they're the tag SmackDown or women's champions, tag champions, they can appear here anyway, so it doesn't count towards our invitational rule. But I mean, for me, I think for Paul Heyman, and there's also been a lot of rumors, supposedly like shows were being rewritten last minute, and this is all speculation.
That's wrestling though.
Yeah,
you know that a lot of that's Vince too does that. So I don't buy into. Look, that's the creative process.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, this is all just people hearsay, so you don't know what's actually going on. But for me, like also, I guess you saw two shows as far as on SmackDown, it seemed like Bruce Pritchard, the veterans were getting a lot of screen time. Jeff Hardy, Sheamus, Daniel Bryan, like a lot of the veterans are getting a lot of push there. While on Raw, we're getting a lot of younger faces or younger talent getting some screen time, which is great. It's like they're trying to build a future. And that's what Paul Heyman's MO is, or that's his strategy. And as you said, well, is that going to change? Are we going to see maybe some other faces, veterans getting more pushes on Raw now? So the new guys that they're trying to build them up are going to lose their screen time. That's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But also, at the end of the day, though, regardless who's in charge, they always got to report to Vince McMahon. So I saw some people are saying, "Oh, it's unfortunate Paul Heyman's just the current fall guy for the issues, the ratings problems that WWE is currently having." So Paul Heyman, he's just the fall guy for this current round of the bad ratings. Who knows if Bruce Pritchard is going to have, how long he'll be in his spot for till maybe Vince gets tired of him. I don't know. I mean, we shall wait and see. But it brings up the point, people, from what I saw the comments online, it's like Vince. At the end of the day, Vince makes the final call, so it's like it's kind of unfair that he's blaming Paul Heyman when he's the one who's making the final decisions on stuff. So I don't know.
I don't look at it as, I mean, again, I don't know if it's playing the blame game so much as it is just, to make a bad sports analogy, but when you have the front office not getting along with your head coach kind of deal, you have to have that sort of simpatico, that working relationship, and it goes up and down with the McMahons and Heyman. And I will not be surprised in the slightest if Paul Heyman a month from now is back in that writer's room helping write Raw or SmackDown. That is the nature, certainly, of their relationship. And because they value his input and his creativity, he, by most people's accounts, can, when he really, really wants to hone in on an idea, can beat it to just a pulp. And then to the point where even if it's a good idea, somebody won't want to go along with it just because it's been beaten over the head with them so much. So I would not be surprised if Paul Heyman is back in that creative room.